Hello.
We were talking about Disney stuff while you were out.
We were. Yes.
Out and about.
Out for 30 seconds to go grab my boom mic stand and plug everything in and turn it on.
That's what we're calling it these days.
I guess we should just jump in here. Hi, welcome to the Spodcast. It's been a while.
Yeah.
We missed you. If you only listen to Spodcast, I guess.
Why don't we pick up from where you guys were, where I interrupted you to plug in my microphone so we could do this.
So rudely
you went to
interrupted.
Disney World?
Yeah, so I went to Disney World, and I was just telling Camster about all the different hotels I stayed in because I have lit candles from the smells of the hotels because I miss them a lot. So I actually had a Port Orleans candle, and I don't remember what Port Orleans smelled like, but I also have a yacht club smell on the way, and that was distinctly very awesome. Like it's like an aloe, beachy sort of smell, and it's just amazing.
The yacht club's fancy.
Were these like candles you could buy in the hotel gift shop, or did
No,
you
they
realize
don't sell-
afterwards you really wanted them and you found something that smells like the hotel?
Yeah, it's like an Etsy thing that I found, and like there's a lot of them like that. But Disney actually doesn't sell like any park scents. But I do know how they generate their scent because I was like for a hot minute thinking about buying that industrial machine they use and buying the exact same scent, which I found. But it's not even a candle. It's like a whole like smell system that they have.
You walk into your house, and in the middle of your living room is just a giant industrial air purifier / scent generating machine.
But it smells like Pirates of the Caribbean.
I mean, me and my wife have been tempted to do the same thing with the stupid industrial strength fog generators they do at HHN, because we love the smell of that stuff. But like that would drown our house in fog so quickly because it's an industrial strength fog machine. It'd be bad.
Yeah, is that safe to use in an environment the size of a house? Like,
you're really not supposed to use it that often in enclosed areas, so no. Oh, you mean the scent thing?
No, I don't know about
the scent.
Even if it's not toxic, I feel like it would probably destroy your walls with like mold and mildew.
Well, now, let's not be hasty, Josh. Now, I did some additional research, and it turns out there's a lot of people online that have purchased these for their homes.
Really?
Actually, it's worth it. Yes, I've heard testimonials of people, like, they're like, yes, this is the stuff Disney uses. I needed it for my house.
That is
And so
impressive.
I
That
got
is
it.
dedication.
Yeah, so, like, I would do that if they had, like, a way to buy them. But, like, it seemed a little strange. Like, it seemed more like an industrial style, like, you know, large entertainment companies like Disney buys these things. I don't think they're interested in sending, like, one to one person. I don't know. I didn't look into it that much, I suppose. You got me.
How much do these things cost?
See, I didn't see a price.
Oh, but people have apparently found a way to buy them.
Yeah, like,
Maybe they're
or maybe
secondhand
people
units.
are buying like a hand at home version of the same smell, but it's not the actual like big machine.
I don't know. That's weird. It's just the idea of trying to make your not make your house smell like Disney, but to buy the industrial strength stuff is weird to me, because like I feel like that can only be sourced from certain suppliers.
Yeah, you
know.
would think so.
Because that means you have to like have an industrial scent sales rep that you know the number of, that you can just call up your scents guy. I don't know, I feel like that's a lot of dedication.
It is living a very extra life, I will admit.
Like, I wonder, like, how exclusive the deal Disney has with their suppliers is. Like, if you can just, like, oh, I know a guy at a warehouse, I can get some extra stock.
I mean, it
I
can't
think
be
it's
that
less of the deal and more of the markup.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because, like, I know a few things that I can find from Disney at, like, the source for certain things. And you see the prices on there and then compare them to the Disney price, and you're like, it's like 5 times the price.
So aside...
Maybe they get, like, a bulk deal. Anyways, it's not interesting.
Well, aside from Disney smells, what else did you do or see at Disney World that was interesting?
Well, this is my 5th time, so obviously, like, I've seen a lot and done a lot.
Uh-huh.
But this time I got to see the Avatar stuff, because that just opened. Unfortunately, I went right before Toy Story Land opened in Hollywood Studios, so, like, that's... And you know what's awesome is that actually there's a billboard right down the street from where I live that's advertising it. It's like an Air Canada billboard with Toy Story Land, and I have... basically drive by it every time I take Biscuit out to the park. And it's going to torture me. And I'm going to be so upset. It's going to eat away at my soul. But
Hollywood
anyways.
Studios. Oh, go ahead.
Oh, yeah. So that's, those are like that was kind of like the newest thing. They had a new fireworks show, to replace Wishes, which was really friggin' awesome. And I did the Keys to the Kingdom tour for the first time, which is like the behind-the-scenes tour of the Magic Kingdom, and I did a lot of new restaurants that were like in-demand restaurants that I never got a reservation for before.
Ooh, any cool ones?
Did we ever do the behind-the-scenes stuff? I can't remember.
You and I did.
Jacob and I were there, like... Well, Jacob and I, because we'd been there for like 3 or 4 times, I think. And this was all when we were kids. Yeah. Also, Jacob's here. Hello.
Hi, Jacob.
Surprise! I'm here now. I just got back from dinner.
I for some reason, I have this like memory of doing behind the scenes stuff, or this impression that we did that, but I don't remember. I don't think it was like the full on behind the scenes tour thing, because that's pretty extensive, right?
Yeah, it was like a 5-hour walking tour.
They have an actual like tour of behind the scenes Disney now?
They've had this for a while.
When we were kids, maybe it was just, like, I'm not remembering this right, but we got there early or something, and they took us on, like, some behind-the-scenes stuff, like you're remembering, Josh. But I don't think it was, like, an official thing. I think it was just, like, the costume characters picked us to do this thing. And they took us on the rides early.
Yeah, that's a magical
maybe that's
moment.
what it was.
It was a pretty magical moment, except for the fact that I was terrified of Goofy, and they tried to get me to ride with Goofy down Splash Mountain, which was already a ride that scared me, because I didn't like drops at the time, and it was double whammy terrifying. I was freaking out. I remember that distinctly.
That's really lucky, though. Not many kids get that opportunity.
Oh, it was
also,
super great.
Doing Splash Mountain at the beginning of the day is a mistake.
I always do it because it's my favorite ride. I do it all the time.
Well, we know who we're not going to Disney with.
It gets hot enough in Florida in the mornings that it's okay to be wet.
Yeah, but it's humid.
Yeah, like...
You're going to get rained on anyway. It's Orlando.
It's whatever. It's just you're just doing your vacation thing.
The last time I was at Disney...
Walt Disney.
I actually knew the whole history of that in the behind-the-scenes tour. They talked all about it. So I know all the answers to your questions.
I'm Alex. I got the cool behind-the-scenes tour, and Josh and I only got the magical moment.
It was very cheap swampland.
Yeah, it was basically it's all reclaimed like swamp and bog areas, right? Like it wasn't even like really solid. It wasn't like open fields.
No, it was definitely...
they had to do a lot of like terraforming, and like what the coolest thing I learned is that the Magic Kingdom is actually built up off of the like ground floor, or essentially like the land. They built it up. So like when we were underground in the tunnels, that was actually like main floor. And the Magic Kingdom, like the castle is above ground.
I've heard like how there's a huge network of like tunnels for all the workers to use. So like and it creates this sort of like freaky police state kind of stuff when it comes to people breaking the rules, because like they've got surveillance cameras everywhere and they're watching you even if you don't know it, and you break the rules, and like people just start swarming out of nowhere through hidden entrances to the underground.
Have you ever told the story of Dad and his friends on that trip? Is that something you think we shouldn't tell?
I don't remember what the story is, so...
Oh, you don't remember the story? Well, I'll just launch into it because I've had a couple drinks and I don't know. I think it's fine.
Do it.
So my dad went with a group. I don't know. Launch my mouth. I don't know if it was like a school trip or whatever, but he was there with a bunch of people, and a couple of his friends. He wasn't there, but a couple of his friends decided that it would be a smart idea to hold up one of the train rides. This was back in like the 70s,
I remember
so I have no
this
idea
now.
which one it was. And so what they did is they got bandanas and they like kind of went off the path into the woods. And before the ride even started, like Disney security popped out of the ground apparently and like arrested them pretty much. They like came out of nowhere. And so so my dad, who's in another part of the park, just hears like could so and so, the leader of this trip that they're on, come and pick up come to the security desk to pick up A, B, and C. And so everyone who was on that trip, of course, was curious, so everyone went back to the front desk, or the security desk, and only to find those kids. They were really lucky. They only got they got let off with like a warning or something like that, which today you'd be kicked out of the park forever.
The 70s, they didn't really care about like comical terrorism, I guess is what it's called. Cartoon terrorism.
I almost got kicked out of the park once because I mentioned pepper spray. Because my wife once accidentally got caught in airport security with it, which is a whole other story. I'm not going to shut up. Everyone's going to hear this too. But I said that. I was like, don't make it like the pepper spray incident, Madison. And they freaked out. They were like, we do not say pepper spray here. I was like, all right, jeez. Relax.
I try to be on my best behavior at Disney because I'm just scared of the police state.
Yeah, it's kind of scary.
But it's also just like everyone else is being so nice that like I try my best never to be like a dick as much as possible. Because like I know these people are like really, really nice and happy and they most likely like really want to be there, but like there's like a billion other families out there that are just bitching and yelling at these people and it's just like it kills me.
Yeah.
And I don't think they get paid all that much, do they?
No.
No, they
that
have
was
the,
like the one.
Go ahead.
That was like the one thing where like we were with my group had someone in it that was like really interested in talking to the behind the scenes person about like union stuff and like all this stuff, and like because he's like, oh, when we're behind the scenes we can talk about the real dirt, and so I guess that's what they interpreted it was, like let's shit on Disney as a company, but really it just meant like let's just say the things that we don't want to say in front of children. So she was just like, are you guys unionized? How many days, like how many hours a week do you work? Do you get time off? And he's like, you know what? I can work as much as I want. And like, it was so robotic and creepy and weird. He's like, I could work over 10 hours if I wanted to. And I'm just like, that's not good. Yeah, it was weird. He was very media trained, knowledgeable, but a very like strong stance and a history that leaves out a lot of things conveniently, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
Like a lot of history. Conspiracy theory.
Yes.
No, I know Disney has the Disney College program, which is one of the ways they get basically free labor, or close to it, where they go to college campuses and argue that like, hey, come do an internship at Disney. It'll be great opportunities and you get to work at Disney World and it's going to be great. And they pay you basically next to nothing. I can't remember what the exact amounts are, but it's not great. It is bad. And you get to go there and work for Disney, and you get to say you have Disney job experience, but it's one of the many ways Disney figures out how to skirt labor costs. I mean, realize right now Disney is basically at war with the city of Anaheim, which is its own thing.
Disney is at war with a lot of people and a lot of places and a lot of entities. For example, United States IP laws.
Yeah, they're not actually trying to push this one, are they? I thought the 2021 they were going to let that stay, and because their new tactic is to use trademark law. Like, the old tactic was, yeah, let's just keep kicking copyright out. Every time Mickey's about to go into the public domain, let's kick Mickey out. Their new tactic, as I understand it, and I'm not a lawyer, so do not believe anything I'm about to say, but from what I've read,
Tell us more.
because I'm interested in this topic, is that, from what I understand, they are not pushing to extend the Copyright Act any further. It's already ridiculously too long. And in something like 2022 or 2021, Mickey will enter the public domain. Or not Mickey. Steamboat Willie will enter the public domain. But because Disney still holds a trademark on the name Mickey Mouse and has a close brand identity associated with Mickey Mouse, and Mickey Mouse's, head shape icon and all of that is still thoroughly trademarked, you can take Steamboat Willie, or you will be able to take, once it enters the public domain, Steamboat Willie, and make derivative works from it, but good luck trying to capitalize or sell on it or promote it in any meaningful way without using the trademark terms like Mickey Mouse or Mickey Mouse's Visage or anything like that. So it's going to be a real interesting future we're headed into, but they're not, as I understand it, currently trying to advocate for yet another copyright extension. Sorry,
so
that's
you're
just
saying
my little...
this is legal advice.
It's not legal advice. And it's, I am not a lawyer, do not listen to me, but that's what I've read other people write.
Right?
Damn it. I'm just saying, I've read other people who are lawyers write about this. I don't know how right they are, but this is what I have read. Anyway, Disney. Did you eat anywhere good there, Alex?
Yeah, so I got to go to a few places for the first time that were like on my list. The first was the California Grill, which is the restaurant on the top of the Contemporary Resort, which is like the one next to the Magic Kingdom. So that was really cool because it was like a perfect view of the entire Magic Kingdom, and we had reservations for a time when the fireworks show was going on, so they allowed us to go onto like the balcony and watch, and that was really cool. And they piped the music in. And the food was delicious, and I couldn't handle the amount of food that they gave. Like, I'm not used to... That was, like, the one thing, is, like, I'm not used to eating, like, large American-sized portions. Like, no offense, but, like, the portions are bigger.
You mean normal American-sized portions?
Normal
American-sized portions.
That are not Canadian-sized portions. Government... government official size portions.
I really want to go to California Grill. Sorry, I'm just really amazed.
It's so good. Very impressed. So that was amazing. I got to go to Le Cellier for the first time, which is the Canadian restaurant in the Canadian Pavilion, which is like not very like traditionally Canadian. It's really just a steakhouse. You can get steak at every restaurant in Disney World, though. So like that's the one thing is like those were good, but like there's steak all the time everywhere.
I have a question.
Yes. I still loved it. It was still probably my favorite steak, and I had the cheddar cheese soup, which was also amazing. Not very Canadian again, but...
Well, that's what I was going to ask, is as a Canadian, how do you feel about the Canadian Pavilion? Because I feel it's borderline offensive, because it's basically all maple stuff and Martin Short.
Yeah, like, I mean, definitely it's like the parts that are a little too dated and comical are like the indigenous aspects. Like, I think that needs to be reevaluated a little bit. But, like, I kind of find, like, the traditional Canadian stuff just funny. Like, you can buy hockey pucks and, like, things that are so mundane and weird. And, like, why would you even buy this at Disney World type stuff? So, like, I don't mind that at all. I think it's interesting that they take such an interesting perspective because it's mostly the French-Canadian. They really lean into that, even though it's not a huge part of Canada by, like, you know, percentage-wise. But that's kind of the distinctly cultural, I guess, thing that separates us from you guys, I guess.
I'm actually curious about that, because we've got, like, that whole, maple syrup, hockey, Tim Hortons donuts, like stereotype of Canadian culture, but like, is that something that came out of like Northeastern Americans making fun of Canada, or is that like, does that actually reflect how Canada views itself, or like?
So, like, I've always had,
like,
a struggle with, like, the Canadian identity as, like, a Canadian who, like, sees themselves as, like, something that's not American. Like, I think, like, America is what Canada would be if we were more, like, patriotic about being white. But, like, I think because we're, like, we embrace the multiculturalism a little bit more. It's not, like, really, you know.
I love it.
But, like,
I agree
the
with
only,
you.
like... The only white Canadianness is, like, corporate Canadianness, and that's, like, Tim Hortons, which is not even a Canadian company anymore. I still drink Tim Hortons probably almost every day, so it's, like, whatever. That's kind of a stereotype. But, like, the hockey element, and it's, like, yeah, everyone loves hockey, but it's also just got this, like, huge, like, national tie to it that's, like, again, it's like football in America. It's kind of, like, gross and weird. Like, disgusting amount of money, like, being thrown around there. And then it's like, yeah, everything else is just, like, clothes you buy. Like, the flannel, like, Roots is a company that's, like, capitalized on the flannel look, the lumberjack look. Like, not everyone walks around and wears that, but, like, that's how people tell us to be Canadian, because white people don't know how to have culture, basically, outside of that, right? So... That's my, like, a lifetime of thinking about what it means to be Canadian. And Canadians will tell you, like, oh, we have lots of things. We have butter tarts and whatever. And I'm like, okay.
Poutine.
But, like, still.
Classic poutine.
You've also got,
like poutine,
Quebec.
things that people don't really eat a lot of. Like, it's a very, like, special thing to have because it's so bad for you.
It sounds horrible to me. Just every part of it. So... Probably gonna get flack for that one, but poutine sounds disgusting.
It really is. Like, I will eat it because I like eating garbage food, but, like, it is quite gross. It is too much.
I don't actually know if I've ever had poutine.
Everybody's gotta come visit Alex.
Alright.
See, like, it all sounds great to me except for the gravy. Gravy and French fries sounds like a weird combination. Which I guess is strange, because I'd be okay with, like, gravy and, like, you know, home fried potatoes or whatever. It's just French fries. That's strange.
Well, you have to make a good poutine fry, it needs to be thick enough to be able to withstand gravy. A good poutine is not soggy as hell because it's, like, full of gravy, then you're just doing it wrong.
A huge shoestring fries, and everything came out terrible.
Yeah, that's, like, the one thing you probably do not want to use.
So the other thing that weirds me out about poutine is the cheese, because as I understand it, the cheese curds are supposed to be, like, squeaky cheese, like paneer. And I like paneer well enough in Indian food, but, like, I don't know, there's something about the idea of squeaky cheese and gravy and fries. Just that combination is weird and alien and scares me.
The cheese part is purely texture. Like, you get the gravy overpowers the cheese completely. Or it usually does. Like, obviously there's so many different takes on poutine now, like different kinds of gravy and different kinds of cheeses and whatever. But, like, the traditional, like, poutine, it's the cheeses is not the thing that packs the flavor. It's just purely the thing that gives it that, like, texture and that gooey sort of, you know, cheesy, stringy
which you want if
thing.
You're doing any kind of loaded fries dish.
Yeah, like it's, to me, it's just not an important part of it for taste. Like, that's why it's an integral part of, like, it has to be that cheese. That being said, I love kimchi fries like 100 times more than poutine, always, forever. I don't know if you've ever had kimchi fries, but they are basically like fries topped with kimchi, and then usually like the Asian mayo and that kind of sauce and leeks.
Don't you have like a fry chart? I feel like you have a fry chart somewhere.
For purely the shape, I don't have the chart does not encompass like recipes made with fries. That's a whole other game.
Well, Well, you know what you're doing after this.
I know. Now I just made myself hungry again. Ah. Anywho, we got way off topic, but like, I guess those are like the two main restaurants I went to at Disney that, like, I went to that I didn't before. Everything else was kind of like, oh, like, you know, went back to old favorites. Went to some new quick serve places. Went to like a lot of them places like in Epcot really were they were really good, but then like some were just, you know, they just didn't try at all to like make good food. Like the Japanese one was very disappointing.
Epcot. Yeah.
Or like I would never go there, or like I never would go to the Chinese food place or anything. But like the Italian one is just kind of like whatever, because it's like, for me it's not novel. But like the Mexican one I thought was excellent. You know, although recognizing it's not that authentic. You know, obviously the Canadian one is excellent. Nothing to do with authenticity there. It's just good food. Like that's kind of what makes the good food there in the World Showcase.
In fairness, Les Celliers is a signature dining option. Like, it is one of the fancy ones that takes like 2 food credits. It is a fancy restaurant.
So is California Grill as well.
Yes. Those are both. I really want to go to California Grill, and I'm super envious, and I've never been, and I want to go so bad. But
Field trip, let's all go.
Field trip, yeah, I'll go back. I'll go back for sure.
That would be neat. Have us.
Alex will make the sacrifice of going back to Disney World.
I would go back tomorrow.
I like Disneyland better. Fight me.
Well, I haven't been since I was a baby, so I need to also.
I feel like we've actually had this conversation. On
we
the
have.
Before.
We absolutely have.
Because Chris and I
the
got
more we
into
talk about it, the more it'll happen.
I feel like you and Mumbles were on the Disneyland side, and Chris and Alex were on the Disney World side.
Alex were on Disney World, yeah.
I mean, I feel like this also largely comes down to which coast you're closer to, but
yeah.
But
the
Disney
thing
World
I'm just learning
objectively better.
That is like more and more is that Disneyland has so many more restrictions. Like, because of just like the locale and the population. It's just like they need to.
I think what it comes down to for me is how much you actually like Disney. I don't want to make my entire vacation about Disney, so I don't want to go to Disney World. One day and I'm done.
But now there's California Adventure, a rip-roaring adventure through Pixar's best movies, and also Guardians, and also, what else is there?
How dare they remove the Tower of Terror?
The last time we were there, I think the California Adventure was not totally finished, and most of that stuff wasn't in that, and it was just basically like bad knockoff Six Flag style roller coasters.
Have you guys watched any of the Defunct Lands about California Adventure? I freaking love that show.
Yes, I just discovered that channel. It's so great.
Defunct Land is amazing.
You should check it out.
Rob plays those similar things. Defunct Land is basically a channel that does little mini 10, 15-minute documentaries about rides and theme park attractions that no longer exist, and it's kind of amazing. Like, he did one for the... well, it's not just one guy. I think it's Kevin Perjurer and Noah... I don't know their last name. But there's a team of people and they do these documentaries, and it's, my favorite one is the stupid, ride that was their opening day of California Adventure. That was the celebrity tour one, the Superstar Limo one. That was amazingly bad.
That's the one I was going to recommend. If you want to watch and get started on their channel, Superstar Limo, check it out. It's really good.
It's a really bad ride, but it's a good deconstruction of why it was bad and what happened. Anyway, that's a cool YouTube channel. And now I forgot what I was going to say.
Oh, you want to go to the California Grill a lot?
Yes, I mean, I do. I want to go eat signature food in general. I haven't been to Les Celliers since the last time I was at Les Celliers. It was not signature, or at least not for lunch. So I've been there, but I have not been there as a signature restaurant. I also want to go to all the good food places in Animal Kingdom Lodge, because I've never been over there. That sounds amazing.
Oh, the other one I did that was really hot ticket was Ohana.
Ohana is amazing. That's like the one I try to do every trip. It's family style. I don't know, what would you call it? Like
skewers.
Yeah. Basically,
But it's
they
really
also have
like it's like Chinese food, but they like call it Hawaiian.
It's really good. They have like it's family style skewers where they just every couple minutes come around your table and ask if you want more shrimp or if you want more beef or if you want more vegetables. They also have that amazing Tonga bread or whatever, the banana bread at the end.
Yeah,
It's
the bread pudding.
it's all just amazing. Also, you can order from the Tambu Lounge, I think, a pineapple that has
Yes.
booze in it. Did you go
Yes.
to Trader
Pineapple.
Sam?
Oh.
No, I didn't.
Aw. Trader Sam's is also cool.
So here's the thing: is like actually most of the people in my group didn't like Ohana. I think it's just because it was like way too much food. Like,
I can see that.
And it's just they couldn't. It was just like too much, and you felt obligated to eat everything. And like, I don't know. It's just like they give you those huge platters of like noodles, and like you can't eat any more noodles because you're already full on meat, and you don't want to fill up on noodles, and they're just throwing away all that food, and you feel so bad. But you have to stop eating at some point. So you just, I don't know. It just
Filling
felt
up
a little-
on meat is the superior option.
For sure, and that's why, like, we didn't eat all our noodles. They had to be thrown out. And even some meat had to be thrown out because they just give you so much at a time, you don't even have time to say stop.
You know, Chris, that I live
Yes.
in this little town you may never have heard of called Las Vegas, and it's got a whole bunch of gourmet restaurants, you know, just an entire street of them. They're everywhere that, you know, you could come and visit and eat lots of cool stuff at if you wanted to.
That's actually half tempting just because I know Lindsay really wants to go to Vegas at some point because neither of us have ever been, and it's super cheap to
Let's
fly out
go.
there. And
Let's
When
go.
are we going to do a
And
spoiler
everything's-
warning reunion?
I have
Well,
legitimately
union.
thought about doing that.
like, because it's all subsidized by gambling, airfare is pretty cheap, and then hotel rooms are really cheap. As long as I don't actually
Hotel
do any
rooms-
gambling, it should be fine.
Have gotten more expensive. They've baked in a lot of like resort fees into hotel room prices that aren't listed as like part of the hotel room prices and stuff like that. Parking is now mostly not free anymore, which sucks.
Well, I'll come
Does
stay at your house.
For some reason, I picture like Vegas being sort of similar to the way people treat like New Orleans, where it's really just that one strip that everyone cares about. As long as you can get a hotel on that strip, you're good. You don't need to worry about taxis or transit.
I got that impression when I was in New Orleans for sure.
Yeah, there is that to an extent. The difference between New Orleans and Vegas is that in the summer, Vegas is like 115 degrees outside during like around noon. So
It's a dry. I don't know why humidity and heat keeps coming up as a conversation piece in this podcast, but
Do we all have like
'Cause
curly,
humidity
like
sucks.
you know, like frizzy hair? Because that's why, like, I feel like that's how I find my like fellow curly hair frizzy people is like, bring up the summer and everyone's like, here we go.
I have like the straightest hair in the universe.
I have
my
the
hair
opposite.
just
I have
doesn't
crazy
curl.
frizzy hair. But the problem is that I don't keep it long enough. Well, I guess that's not a problem. I specifically keep it short enough that I don't have to deal with that because fuck that.
I just have generic wavy hair. It's boring. It
You know,
doesn't do anything
The worst
cool.
part about being out here at a tourist spot is not that no one comes and visits me. It's that people come and visit and then don't tell me that they were here until after they were gone. Like, Ritzker has done this to me like 3 times.
I've never been to Vegas. I'm just gonna say it. So don't worry about that for me. Also,
You could do CES.
I don't want to come out there for the show. I just want to come out there and eat some good food and I don't know, see a show
Drink
or something.
some drinks. Yeah.
Drink some drinks.
I
Do it
think
up.
that we've found. I think that we found the thing that we have in common, Chris, which is that we both like really good food.
I like food.
I want to eat at good places. We just went out to our favorite Japanese place tonight because it's so good. And now I want to go out again.
Congratulations.
It's all your fault.
This is a podcast full of very
There's-
hungry people.
There
Yes.
was an amazing. Was it Japanese, Josh? I think it was a Japanese place in Vegas that got shut down, and it makes me sad because they had literally the best scallops you would have ever had in your life, but you can't.
I mean,
get them
it
anymore.
was kind of an Asian fusion place.
Whatever it was fantastic, and I can never have scallops again because none of them will compare.
It was called Sensi's, Sensi.
Like the little candles?
But I guess. But it wasn't shut down because it wasn't doing very well. It was actually shut down because the head chef convinced the owner to let them build their dream restaurant. So they converted it into that. So I mean, I guess it's like, at least it's not a sad story.
No, it's a sad story for me because I love that place, but
I'm sure we can find another place that you would like here.
Well, I like a lot of food, Josh, but I don't think that I'll ever like scallops again. I can't overstate how amazing. It was like a movie moment. It was like that moment from Ratatouille where the guy eats the ratatouille and like flashes back to his past. It was like that for me. It was fantastic.
You flashed back to the moment in your childhood when you had really good scallops and you've never had them again since then.
Which was that same moment, so it was kind of a loop of me flashing back to the moment of me eating the food that just happened. It was a whole trip. I lived an entire lifetime in that realm. It was that good. I didn't regret a second of it.
So can this podcast now turn into, spoiler warning, plans a trip to Las Vegas cast? Where like every week we just do a new thing.
Florida.
Yeah, it's just a travel log.
Yeah, like so week one we're like,
mine
okay,
is just,
let's
well,
like
I'm hanging out.
Book tickets for our planes. Isn't this fun?
It's really cheap for me to get to Vegas, I'm just saying.
Yeah, it's not expensive to fly in here, which is nice.
I think I can get to Vegas with under $100. I really think I can.
What?
Round trip? Yep. Maybe.
Maybe not round trip, but I can get it pretty low. If I get the tickets like 2 months in advance, I can get it super low. I've seen tickets for like $60. It's amazing.
Yeah. On the other hand, me flying to you, despite the fact that I can get direct flights, which is unusual for Spokane Airport.
Yeah.
Fly to LAX. It's like $250.
Place we need. It's more expensive on the way back, I'll tell you that. But yeah, if you do a layover in Seattle, it's usually pretty cheap.
Yeah, but I don't want to do a layover in Seattle.
Seattle's great. What's wrong with you?
But yeah, it's a great city, but not in the airport.
Yeah, it's not really super great downtown either. I like there's certain parts down there that is really great, and then other parts that are like, why is it so dirty here? Like, I'm really blown away by that.
Yeah.
That the city center has, like garbage and graffiti in places. And I'm like, oh, how?
I mean, it's not nearly as bad as San Francisco.
No, not as bad as San Francisco. Don't really understand the appeal, but I've only been there, like, the last time I was there was a long time ago, so I'm willing to give it another shot one of these days when eventually I end up there. I'm certain it'll happen.
Well, this is the script here says this is a podcast about video games, which I don't think we've mentioned yet today.
All right, let's talk about food-related video games.
Yes.
And video games relating to traveling to Vegas.
I haven't gotten a chance to play Battle Chef Brigade yet. But I'm super interested in doing that.
And
Desert Bus about food?
No, it's about
traveling to Vegas.
That's true.
That's all I got. I'm out of jokes.
Well, you and I have been playing Battletech a bunch.
Oh, have I? I have already beaten the game. That's how much I've been playing.
Yeah, I have not.
I'm good.
I'm on the ammo dump mission, and that's not going so
the
great.
worst mission. That is the worst mission. Literally the worst mission. I cannot describe how much I hate that mission. I had to load an earlier save because I tried to beat that and all the objectives for about 8 hours before I gave up. And then I had to go back and like grind my way to getting better mechs because that mission is a son of a bitch.
See, I think I have the mechs to do it, but I my save is from like deploying to it, and
exactly.
I do not have the right mechs with me.
Yep. Yeah. That's one of my biggest problems with the game, is it really punishes you for not knowing what you're getting into, and it'll so you get dropped into these situations, but it won't drop you in a way that makes any sense, so you'll always be far away from the objectives, and it puts you in positions that are already vulnerable, and it's but we could just land over there and it would be fine.
Yeah.
So, there's a lot of frustrating, not just because you don't know the map you lose.
It does not help that the skull difficulty indicators are just totally worthless and don't at all reflect the difficulty of the mission. Let's back up here though for people who are not totally familiar with what Battletech is. Battletech is a tabletop game that gave us the MechWarrior stuff from the 90s. And now it's also a turn-based XCOM style strategy game, where you run a mercenary company and you have big mechs and you land those big mechs on top of other bigger mechs and stomp them. And it has the worst tutorial ever.
It was not good.
Which really, you played MechWarrior Online for 3 years, so you kind of already knew what the hell everything was, but, I played the tutorial and was like, that's it? What the fuck? The tutorial literally just tells you how to move and attack, but there's you have all these options for you've got these different weapons, and they're all abbreviated weapons, so you have no idea what a PPC is, or an AC5. Right.
See, this is where, my having played MechWarrior in the 90s comes in handy. Because, I'm looking at this and I'm like, oh, that's cute. They made a tabletop RPG out of MechWarrior because I came at it from literally the opposite direction from what you're supposed to.
Yeah, so I jumped in there and I the first couple hours was really rough because I had absolutely no idea what I was doing or what the ideal way to play is, or how to deal with what different weapons do, or how to manage heat, or what instability is, because none of these things are mentioned in the fucking tutorial. And the interface is not particularly self-explanatory either. So
no.
Did not have a great time in my first couple hours with it, but then after that, after I figured out what the hell was going on, this game is really, really good. I hesitate to use the term addictive for games, because obviously it's not the same thing as actually being addicted to something, but it's
pretty good.
Constantly going oh man, I could be playing Battletech instead of editing this video.
It's been a while
15
since
minutes later I'm
playing
Battletech.
That has, I have other things I want to do, but instead I play this game because I'm enjoying it so much. And I think part of the appeal comes from the fact that after you do figure out all those abbreviations and whatnot, it is really fun to load out your mechs in different ways. And I'll say this, the game's most comparable to XCOM, but I didn't like XCOM, and I think now that I've played this game I know why, which is just that you really only had a couple of options. And I didn't play the DLCs, so I don't know if they let you customize things more, but you really kind of only had a couple of classes you could play, and those classes defined what this character would be. Whereas in MechWarrior, there's all sorts of different weapons that you can equip. Some of them do more stability damage, which can knock down other mechs, and that can create interesting situations. Some are great for just piercing through that armor and getting those center torsos or shoulders. And so there's a lot of options. You can even make a melee mech, which is not something you could have done in MechWarrior Online, at least. You can even make a melee mech that goes in and literally falls from the sky and kills other mechs. It's pretty awesome. So there's a lot of ways to play the game. And that makes it continually interesting. As you move on, you can get these different mechs and play around. And that's what I love the most about it.
I should really play it.
And it's really it struck some kind of balance between mech survivability, or I should say unit survivability, and terrain effects and cover and stuff, and that every time that I've lost a mission, it's been a thing where instead of just going, well, okay, this mission is impossible, which was the case with some XCOM missions, I was always thinking like, well, okay, if I just approach from this angle and use this cover this way, and, if I knew that thing was over there, I would have been able to totally clean things up. So, like, there's, like, losing in the game is... Like, I'm not playing an Iron Man. Like, if I lose half my mechs in a battle and, like, everybody's dead, like, I will reload. But, it doesn't usually make me super frustrated in the way that XCOM would on some of its, especially XCOM 2's stupid timed missions, where, like, losing with those just felt really frustrating. With this one, it's been much more, I come back and I'm looking at it like a puzzle, like, oh, okay, you know what, if I just done this right, then it would all worked out. And then I usually go back and I play the mission again with my new play and see how that works out.
And most of the missions aren't frustrating. I'll say that. Like, there's plenty of ones that I played and lost, and I had to reload because I got wiped to an amount that I wasn't willing to keep rolling with. Because you could, for the most part, you can lose and keep playing and just rebuild up. But I wasn't interested in that for reasons that I'll get into in a minute. But I will say I didn't get frustrated at many missions. The ones that were really difficult that I had to reload, like Josh was saying, it felt like a puzzle. And the ones that, like, I lost someone on or a mech on, but, like, maybe it felt like a really challenging map, it felt rewarding to beat a map and only have one mech lost, especially as it gets more difficult. I think one of my biggest problems with the story narratively and why I often would reload, even if I only lost one mech, is it does seem to have this timeline. No spoilers, but it does seem to have this timeline of events. And like everything else, except for maybe XCOM, you're spending a lot of time outside of that doing, like, you could consider them side quests. They're contracts. You can do contracts for other, like, non-story related things. And you can spend a lot of time outside of that, and it kind of ruins the narrative flow a little bit if you pay attention to the timeline. Like, at one point, one character says, oh, I've been waiting for this for X amount of time. And I was like, well, really, you've been waiting for that for 3 years more? Because I've been playing this game for, like, 150 in-game weeks. So, like, your timeline's a little messed up here.
It's a bit open world game with a main quest that you don't pay any attention to.
Right. But the problem is, the main quest is like, this thing is happening now, and then I spend, 2 months off in the middle of fucking nowhere, and somehow this, like, big important event just waits for me. I don't know. For whatever reason, that really bothers me in games. So I rushed through the main story. I finished it, yesterday, I think.
I didn't feel like that was always viable, or even what the game was trying to point you to do, because the main story missions tend to ramp up in difficulty pretty quickly.
Yes, I agree, but there are also things where it's like, this is an important thing that's happening right, like, we gotta go do this thing or else bad things will happen. And then you have the option to just not go do that thing for literally 50
years.
Weeks. Yeah, for like a couple of years, and then come back to it and it's still there, and that, I don't know, for whatever reason, that just ruins the narrative flow, for the game. For me. So I rushed through the story missions because I couldn't handle them being like, all right, now that you've come back after 2 years, because you have situations where mechs and pilots, if you get a pilot injured or if you get a mech that's damaged, you have to fix those things, and those can take up to like 30 days, especially early on.
Pilots can be injured for like 90 days or more, depending upon
it's been
upgrades.
A while since I've had that happen, because you do get upgrades to make those things faster. But yeah, it can be a really long time. So if you're gonna have a narrative in a game like this where you actually record the amount of time that's passing and you make it that long, either adjust the narrative's like urgency or don't have it be urgent at all, because it felt a lot like I should be doing this, but I'm not, because my pilot is out. The pilot I want to take on this mission is out.
I've done that also a little bit. Oh yeah, the game is not stable.
It's unfortunately not.
And like, it takes a long time to load, and I've got it on a solid state drive, so like, and it still takes like 15-20 seconds to load a fucking mission, and the menus are really laggy.
It's worse on not a solid state.
Especially when you're doing like mech loadout stuff. The mech loadout screen is really, really sluggish.
It takes like 5 to 10 seconds to load every click. Like every new menu I go into takes 5 to 10 seconds.
Oh, actually, I need to go to the store and buy one more heatsink. So you undo your changes and pop back out and go to the store and then go back to the mech loadout screen and wait another 10 seconds for it to load up and then have to re-queue up all your changes that you already did and also add the extra heatsink. And then you realize you forgot to buy another thing.
So it's definitely not a flawless execution in those ways. And I'm hoping that as they go on, like maybe they'll add updates to make it more stable and to fix some of those problems. It feels to me a bit like maybe they did all the features they wanted to do, but maybe they didn't fix the performance and they kind of rushed that out the door. But you know, that only is like, I didn't find that to be really annoying. What the worst that it ever is when you are doing a mission that's really difficult and then you get to the ending screen and it crashes. That is really demoralizing. And in any other game, like if it had been XCOM, I would have never played it again. I happen to be a big MechWarrior fan, so I like I continue to play the story. It didn't bother me as much, but there's definitely been several times, like even the last missions that I crashed, and it was like, oh, I gotta do this all again, and it was really hard to get it right the first time. So that can be.
I've had this really annoying bug where sometimes when I load into missions, all my mech textures won't load, so all my mechs are neon purple.
That's only happened to me once, but it was real weird.
It is happening to me like every 3 missions, and I have to fully quit the game and load in again. And sometimes it happens to me again after I load in, and that's really starting to piss me off.
Yeah, that would get annoying. That only happened to me once, and it was like, what is happening? Yeah.
Speaking of video games that are fun, that was a segue. I've also been playing Frostpunk.
Ooh, the game of coal.
And that game is really interesting.
Love it.
It's frigid.
It is cold in Frostpunk, yes. And Frostpunk is a narrative game that uses city building in a frozen steampunk setting as sort of the canvas with which it tells its story. So it looks kind of initially like it's like Surviving Mars or something, or like Banished, and it's an infinite city builder with where one of your main units of interaction is like being able to assign individual people to do specific jobs. So like, oh, you've got a coal pile, send 15 workers to go and dig it up and get coal from it. But actually there is no free mode in this game, and it has like each of the scenarios has a set story, and there is an end point for them, which I found really interesting. Like I can't think of another city builder kind of game that's done that, where like there's a narrative here, and if you manage to fulfill all the objectives, like you win. Like that's the story. Like the story comes to an end and that's it.
I mean, it really does feel like it's an evolution of what they were doing with this War of Mine. Like that really is.
It does.
Superficially, it looks like a city builder, and it is a city builder at a certain level. Like, you're plopping buildings down, you're giving people homes, you're giving people medical tents or whatever. But really what it is resource allocation and balancing in between sending people out on scouting missions to forward the overall plot. It's less of a procedural plot than this War of Mine had, which this War of Mine was kind of more procedurally generated in the sense that it had a preset number of characters that had their own backstories and things going on in their lives. And each one had their own endings you could reach. In this one, it's the story of these exiles from London, and very specifically their story and the city they set up in a crater far, far, far to the north. but yeah, it's structured like this War of Mine, even though at first blush it's a city builder. It really isn't a city builder. It's using city builder mechanics to make you, to ask you to do resource allocation and resource management and time management with a finite number of people, and it's pretty interesting. I really dig it. It's doing a lot of things that have never really been done before, even if individually each thing has been done before. Like, it doesn't do anything genuinely new, but no game has mixed up the things that are in this game the way this game does.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. It's got a really cool setting, really cool aesthetic.
Very, very cool.
But
in fact, its dedication to its aesthetic feel like it maybe goes a little overboard, because like towards the end game, it becomes very difficult to tell what the hell's going on because you've got so much smoke in the air from your generators.
I really need to use generators more. I don't use them enough.
Yeah,
I don't know. You can do it without using those small generators. It's hard, but you can do it, and it's so much easier to see, Josh. It's so much better.
Yeah,
I loaded
probably
up the game on easy just to see how, if I could like get through all the tech trees and stuff, and it was so much easier to see everything. It was great.
I also enjoy that the fact that there is a little bit of room for player expression in terms of like the rule system, the rule of law system, because it sort of simultaneously gives you a little bit of min-maxing and tweaking how you want to approach running your city, but it also has an actual mechanical value. And you are forced between, like, you know, how are we going to deal with the dead? Do we just throw them in a big ice pile and smack our hands together and go, done, we did it? Or do we want to actually do burials? The problem with burials is you got to actually bury them. And also you don't have perfectly preserved bodies, so you can't use those for body parts later if ever you need body parts for reasons. So, it's an interesting series of trade-offs. But if you leave this giant pile of frozen bodies around, that kind of hurts morale, and people don't really dig that either. So.
Yeah, some of those kind of fell flat to me, because, like, the morally good, you know, we're not going to give up our ideals kind of options often ended up paying off better than the fuck it, we're in a survival situation for the species, maybe. We need to do everything we can.
It had a feeling of judging you for doing the things that were necessary and that seemed natural for the story. Like I went full on, like, this is a survival situation. We're gonna make sacrifices. Like, people are gonna work long hours, and I don't care. Like, why can't these people just work these long hours knowing that if they don't, everyone will die? Like, it to me feels like they shouldn't be, I mean, obviously somewhat upset, but shouldn't be too upset about that. But the game will make you feel bad for doing those things, or try to at least. I never did. I was like,
that is the game's, like, one absolutely crippling conceit. The conceit that, like, it is the post-apocalypse. We are huddled together in patchwork tents next to a giant heat generator that must at all times be fueled with coal, lest it shut down, and we are sitting here in negative 20 degrees Celsius weather in patchwork tents, and yet we have all agreed that we will work 9 to 5 and not one moment after 5. Nobody will work after 5. We have 2 hours of leisure time, and then it is straight to bed. And, like, you can set up policies that adjust that and say, like, oh, we're going to be working longer hours or whatever. But, like, I feel like intuitively, if there's a giant generator that desperately needs coal, you could work in shifts to make sure that coal is continuously being produced at least a little bit, as opposed to, like, running out halfway through the night and everyone just going like, well, because there's an indicator on your HUD that tells you how much time you have left in terms of how fast you're burning coal and how much time you have left, based on how much you have and how much fast you're burning through it. And so, like, it could be 5 o'clock on the dot, the whistle blows, all the workers go home, and you can look up on your screen and see that you have 5 hours of coal left. So you either need to start shutting down generators now, or you're going to just have all your workers quit at 5, go home to their beds, and halfway through the night, the generator will just shut down. And that scenario that you can't easily make people go back out in shifts or whatever without having serious, without having to change the rule of law, is weird to me. This rigid 9 to 5, work schedule for what is essentially the survival of the species. That is weird. That's the one thing where the game is like, I get it, but it's weird.
It's also set in like 1888, and I feel like the 8-hour workday had not even been established as typical, even when people weren't working, to make sure that they didn't all freeze to death.
Yeah, there's
in Victorian London.
It's Victorian London. I remember playing Ubisoft's Assassin's Creed Unity and freeing children from sweatshops and labor shops in Victorian London in Assassin's Creed Unity. And this game turns around and goes, yeah, you can't let kids work. And again, I get it. I get that this game
Unless you sign a law that says you can.
Well, yes, you can sign a law that says that they can, but again, it's weird that from the get-go, in a survival situation, everyone is like, children aren't going to work, and we're going to be working 9 to 5, if that's okay with you. Like, we start from like a very modern perspective of what this labor is going to look like, and then you can modify it later with different laws and enactions, but it's just a weird perspective from the game to start from. I get why it's there. I'm not saying I want a game that does nothing but exploit the labor of children, but it's weird that that's where the game starts. Like, our starting line is work as we understand it in 2018, even though it's set way back then.
Way back then, and you're freezing your asses off.
Yeah, and it's survival of the species kind of thing. I mean, kids know how to pick up coal. I can't imagine that's a hard job. Because they're not mining. They're literally picking it at the start of the game. At the start of the game, you are not mining coal. You are picking it up off the ground. There are deposits in the snow that you just walk out through the snow, pick it up, and carry it back. That's literally your job. And I'm like,
in fact,
kids can do that.
You can make machines that like build those dumps. So you could potentially have children doing that the whole time. But
So I also there's no, how do I put this? I have not gotten as far in the game as you guys have, but I know that, at least from what I've seen, there's not like, the other reason it's not like a city building game is that everything's about survival of the group, right? So there's not like police stations or fire stations or power plants, and there's also not schools. I'm wondering how this is going to work in the long term, where you've got a surplus of children who are not being educated. How do you get more engineers that are supposed to be the specialty laborers that can get you, like, how would the game even approach that? Because the game ends before the kids grow up. Like, that's not.
Well, yeah, there's no like the game takes place over maybe half a year at the long end, depending on which scenario we're talking about. Like, and
really?
There's no
Does it ever
system
go
of
that
like,
long?
I, you know what? It may not even go that long.
I think the longest I've ever seen it go is
2
like
months.
50 days.
And there's no system in the game for like, this couple had a baby and now we gotta provide for that and raise it and so on or anything. But like, it is implied that if you do child shelters, like the children are getting some kind of education.
I guess. I don't know. It's weird.
And there are police stations in the game if you go order. And by police stations, I mean guard towers.
Oh, well, that's okay. I guess that's true. I didn't associate guard towers and your personal Gestapo as police in the traditional sense.
You've got guard towers and prisons, and you can go arrest people who are being discontent.
That's the other interesting thing, is that the laws that you get access to, other than the first set of traditional laws, once you have the order and the religious sect or the religious sets of laws, they're all about just establishing systems of control over the population, which is really kind of dour and creepy. And like, that to me is one of the darkest things about the game, is basically, I don't want to spoil anything, but you don't start with those other two rule sets. And when you get those other two rule sets, there's like a story moment that instigates that. And that's actually some of the darkest stuff, is like, well, now we need a reason to control the people better. We can either turn to police state fascism, or we can turn to using religion as a tool to bludgeon people. Which one do you want to embrace? Like, that's kind of the question the game asks. Not exactly that, but it's, to me, one of the more uncomfortable elements of the game is the way it sort of is like, yeah, we weren't worrying about that stuff before, but now let's think about how to do this. I don't know.
I mean, I think it fits, though.
Oh no, it totally fits.
Especially it's just, like because the story moment that makes it clear that like, hey, we need some a more centralized authority and is realizing, oh shit, actually we are probably the last city.
Yeah. No, I mean, it totally makes sense within the context of the game. It's just, how do I put this? It's a good dark counterpoint to the fact that it mostly tries to pay off your better instincts. Like, this game wants to tempt you to do bad and then reward you for doing good. And I think that's sort of an interesting design choice without the... I'm trying to figure out how to say this without being a hypocrite about BioShock 1, and I'm struggling to find the words. Go ahead.
I was just going to say, but it kind of spoils that in that, like, it is such an extreme situation that I don't feel like necessarily everything was bad. Like, it makes you feel way worse for the decisions that you needed to make than I think that it has the right to. Because I didn't find, like, I went down a route that I didn't think was too terrible, and there are certain things you can do that aren't, like, the worst thing ever and still win the game, and then the game still is like, yeah, but was it worth it?
So, do we...
Like, yes?
Do we know that the game always rewards what we think is a happier option, or are we picking what we think is the happier option because that's the option we chose, and when we get rewarded for it, we're like, oh, okay, the game thinks that the good guy option is the right option. Like, okay, I'll put it this way. When it came down to whether you want to, amputate limbs or do the extreme surgery, which ones did you guys pick?
That's the same option. You mean put people in care houses or
yes,
do extreme surgery?
I never did care houses. I
did care houses first time around.
And what did the game?
How did that work?
How did the game handle that? Like, did it punish you or did it say it was good?
I believe it said it was good, although I ultimately decided that, like, it's actually much better to just do radical surgery and give people prostheses.
It's so much better.
I think there's something that, like, people who are in care houses can still do, or, like, some bonus to having them, but I don't remember what it is.
Right, like, eventually, you can research things. If you put the kids in the learning center or whatever it is, the daycare, eventually you can train them to help out with certain things.
Daycare.
Yeah. I couldn't think of the term.
The trash daycare.
I mean, that's technically correct.
Oh dear. Those poor kids.
Oh dear. Kids got it easy.
I'm just picturing the little sister school from BioShock now in your city. House for wayward
I wish
orphans.
We had big daddies.
But anyway, I chose amputation and radical surgery because I thought it was more important to keep people alive than to care for them as they die and give, like, hospice care. And I did that, and then at one point the game was like, you know, holy crap, this guy is freaking out. He's got massive frostbite on his foot, and we have to amputate to keep him alive, but he's refusing treatment. What do you want us to do? Do you want us to take his leg off anyway, or do you want to just, like, you know, listen to his wishes and let him be? And I'm like, look, we need people alive. Cut his leg off. And they took his leg off, and then, you know, hours passed in the game, and then I guess 3 hours after he got his leg amputated using 1800s technology, he runs up to me and was like, that was a great decision. I'm very happy that you did that. I was freaking out. I was not in my right mind. Good on you for making that choice. And
really?
I'm wondering if the game always tries to pat you on the back. Like, I'm wondering if I
let him die, hope falls.
That's not at all what happened. I cut off his leg and then he kills himself. I didn't know it was even an option. Yeah, I didn't even know he could possibly, like, recover from that.
That is
fascinating.
Give him
a prosthetic?
No, I didn't have prosthetic.
Like, right away? Weird.
Yeah, I feel like I did that event two ways. I did it one where I cut off his leg and he just committed suicide, and then I did it where I didn't cut off his leg and he died and people felt sad.
So now I'm wondering how RNG-based this is.
Yeah.
Yeah, like, I wonder, because I never ran into the scenario you had, but, like, I think that's fine that they have some amount of randomness. But, yeah, I just didn't know. I never ran into it. I'd played it a couple times, because there are other scenarios you can do other than the first one. Like, you can beat the first one and then do other scenarios in the same sort of world.
Are they different
which I think
stories?
Yeah, they're different stories,
yes.
but they exist in the same time period. Like, I imagine that these are going on at the same time, and I think that's super neat.
The third one is pretty cool because it's like a group of like lower class people who basically killed all the rich people who were going to take one of the steam dreadnoughts to the north to set up one of the surviving colonies, and took it for themselves and are now setting it up as a workers' haven.
So are there like gameplay challenges in that context that are different than normal gameplay? Like you don't have any engineers to
in
start?
that one, you have a whole bunch of refugees streaming in, and you've got to set up stuff to like accommodate them, or shit's going to go bad real fast.
Yeah, I think all the scenarios are pretty unique, and I like them. Like they do change up the gameplay. Like for instance, another scenario gives you a lot of engineers to start, but like no workers, and you kind of have to figure out how to make that work and survive. Pretty cool.
It's a neat game. I if you like city building or this War of Mine, I definitely recommend it. It's neat. Plus, there's like cold effects. It's snowy.
Sometimes the camera lens gets icy.
Yeah, I like moving the camera around and making like the vignetting make everything look cold. I can't tell if this is a game I'd like really like to play in the middle of summer to like mentally think of coldness and cool off, or if it's the kind of game that's like perfect for winter when it's already freezing outside and you're just huddled up in front of your computer. Because we're in spring now and we're kind of like in that in-between time and temperature doesn't really matter right now.
I mean, it's like I pretty much exclusively played it over a period of several nights. Like middle of the night, all the lights off with like a glass of scotch. So, like that is my preferred means of playing. Like, this is a pretty chill game despite everything.
Just Josh indulging on the luxuries of life while his video game people suffer.
Well, you can give them moonshine.
But from what? What crop? I guess there's the stupid hardy crops that you grow in the hot
houses. I don't know.
Yeah, actually, that's a good point.
The food
they don't
question
really make that clear.
Is one of those things that's not really addressed by the game, and that's probably a good thing, because if you start thinking about food in this scenario, you go, oh, actually, how could it be possible to grow enough food or hunt enough food to support like 500 people in the Arctic? Well, that we talked about some video games after talking about not video games for a while.
Two of my
I think
favorites.
we're out of time by quite a bit, actually.
Oh yeah, for sure.
So thanks for tuning in.
You're welcome.
This is the part where the rest of you jump in and save me from this horrible outro.
Thank you so much for tuning in, everybody. Stay tuned tomorrow for a new episode every day this week.
Exactly.
Oh,
if you want to see the new episode every day, click on Josh's face now.
Chris.
Nice.
Yes.
Say little narrative dissonance.
You know how many Bitcoin games there are on Steam? I looked.
How many?
39.
Ooh,
okay, that's not true.
a lot
More
of
than there
variety.
should be, but less than I expected.
No, that seems like really high to me.
The names are all very similar. There is Call of Bitcoin, Bitcoin Tycoon Mining Simulation Game, Monte Crypto, the Bitcoin Enigma, Bitcoin VR, Bitcoin Farm, Bitcoin Highway, just Bitcoin, Bitcoin Miner, Bitcoin Clicker, Bitcoin Collector, Bitcoin Collector : Spinner's Attack, Bitcoin Mania, not Mania, Mini, Bitcoin or Bomb, ? Bitcoin Trader, Bitcoin Mining Empire Tycoon, Bitcoin versus Brain, Bitcoin